So we are doing problem number 7, and in this problem we're given a force and a value for alpha. So I'm going to write that down, negative 15x squared, and it's asking for part A, how much work is done by the force on the object when it moves along a straight line from 0 to 0.4. So I'm going to use this equation, and work and force are in the same direction, so I don't need to change the force to negative. And then I'm going to bring the dx over, which gives me, and I'm going to go ahead and plug in my negative 15x squared for force, and then multiply the dx like this. And then from there, we're going to integrate, and in this scenario, it says from x equals 0 to x equals 0.4. So work is equal to negative 15x cubed over 3 from 0.4 to 0. And then when I plug in those values, I'm going to get negative 15, or that should be negative 5 if I simplify. So negative 5 times 0.4 cubed minus a negative 5 times 0 cubed, which obviously that cancels out, and I get a negative 0.32 joules. And that would be my final answer. Part B is asking for how much work is done on the object when it moves from 0.4 to 0. That's going to give me the same equation, except for this time I'm going to use negative 5x cubed from 0 to 0.4. And in that case, I end up with 0, because if I plug in 0, everything cancels out, minus a negative 5 times 0.4 cubed, and that turns into a positive, and I end up with a positive 0.32 joules. So one is negative and one is positive. Part C asks, is this force conservative, and explain? Well, the answer is yes. And the reason why is because if I'm going from 0 to 4, the change in x is not dependent on path. Probably spelled dependent wrong there, but we're going to move on to focus on the physics. So it's not dependent on the path, and also the fact that whether I move from 0 to 4 or from 0.4 to 0, they're equal in magnitude. So regardless of direction, work is equal in magnitude, in number value, just different signs. Okay. So for part D, we are asked to identify the potential energy. We know work is equal to the change, equal to but opposite of the change in potential energy. And if we are going from 0 to 0.4, we would take the opposite of our answer to B. So instead of negative 0.32, it would be positive 0.32 joules. If you look at the answer, they want the equation. The equation we got for work is negative 15x cubed over 3, or negative 5x cubed over 3. So in this case, it would be a positive. And they gave it in equation form, so I'm going to turn it into equation form. The 15 was really alpha, x cubed over 3, and this is what they showed in the back of your answer key. If you get a negative equation for work, you're going to take the positive equation for change in energy.